just because you've dealt with a third party in a way that's not, adversarial, there was a solution that eventually is also benefiting your members.
Yes, I mean.
So the case has been
Yes,
already solved?
we
There was a
settled the case
settlement? Okay.
over a year ago. I think in May of 2011, the IBM had new person in as well.
Yes.
And through mutual friends, they sent out feelers that would should we sit down and talk about it? And I was eager to sit down and talk about it because I didn't see how I could move forward without talking to IBM.
So all's well that ends
So
well. Okay.
everything with IBM is now good. We are on a different system from IBM. I think IBM probably is hoping that when we think about upgrading to another system, that they'll have a chance to see whether they can come back and work with us. But for the moment, that's really no longer an issue.
Okay. So at least one in your to-do list has been accomplished already.
Yeah, one in a long to-do list. One long to-do list.
You plan to stay in this task, in this role for a long time. How many?
There is no term.
Okay. But there are more in your to-do list.
Oh yeah. I'm still working on the statements of my members. We began the process of actually going to our members and showing them statements of their accounts and getting them to review that and see whether they agree that this is finally the correct final figures. But some of the other things that we've accomplished, we finally signed an agreement with the Department of Education. They are our largest group, representing over 43% of our members. Last September, we actually signed a memorandum of agreement with the Department of Education and DBM on the settlement of the premium arrears of our members.
Yes.
Last week, I was in the Philippine Postal Corporation to also sign an agreement on how to resolve those issues.
Local governments, how are the unpaid, the payables of, let's say in the case of the ARMM, the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao,
Yes.
and the Caloocan issue?
Good cases you cite there. With regard to Caloocan, Mayor Echeverry and I sat down
They
and we
had
signed
like
the MOA.
38 million unpaid?
Yes, and in fact, we have subsequently validated the figures and came up with a supplemental MOA to finally lay to rest this issue with Caloocan and its unpaid premium.
And the ARMM?
ARMM, we are right now working with ARMM DepEd to try to resolve that. As I mentioned, the DepEd component is very, very large. So if you tackle that you're almost halfway through the rest. And the idea is really to work with them to reconcile. We will condone as much as we can in terms of penalties and surcharges and even interest. And we're prepared to be reasonable.
We're talking of the 1.9 billion payable of ARMM here, or is this a separate one with the Department of Education?
Well, we're doing one with the Department of Education. The 1.9 billion for ARM, it's something that we're working on right now.
Okay.
But the idea is there's no point demanding that they pay you based on a schedule which they cannot really comply with. All that will happen is you'll have overdue interest accruing again, and then you'll be back to where you started. So we're flexible. We understand the difficult financial position that many of our LGUs have. So we try to work with them by extending payment terms, by condoning as much as we can, and hopefully the payment schedule is something that will be okay in their budget.
This doing the payment scheme is nothing new because you've done finance before. It's just a matter of scheduling and all. But
Yeah.
tell us more about, dealing with the local governments themselves and other government officials as far as, handling these unpaid amounts are concerned.
Well, it really depends. There are some local leaders who really want to resolve this thing because they understand that without resolution, it means that many of their employees will probably have problems later on.
Which was the message given when the 1.9 billion payable of ARMM was being discussed. That the benefits of the government employees will not be given out.
Exactly. There are other local leaders that sometimes feel ambivalent about it because when many of the arrears took place prior to their assumption of office, and they too have their plans and programs, so they would have to sacrifice some of their budget to settle arrears that were created by prior occupants of the position that they were now in. So, and really, at the end of the day, the only thing GSIS can say is that these are obligations of your agency. They will directly impact the benefits of all your employees. We're not saying that to pay it up front and extinguish it right away. So what can you afford? And we start from there. And we very often, even the database of or the membership records that they have with us are unupdated. So we start off.
So it's all technology.
It's all really more record keeping, and then using technology to ensure that the records that you maintain are then up to date. And from there, you calculate what is owed. And we sit down and work with them to come up with a livable.
There's a lot of sitting down and talking to these.
Yes, which is another thing that's different from my old my old job. As you can imagine, I sat in front of a bank of screens, and the only thing I'd ever have to say is when I put an order in with a broker and say, okay, sell or buy or do this.
Now you have to answer questions like this. One of the questions raised on social media.
Yeah.
Will you be pursuing Winston Garcia, your predecessor, for anomalies?
We are looking at a lot of transactions that as part of reviewing what we have inherited, when something there requires that we pursue, then we will make sure that whoever is accountable for the transaction has an opportunity to explain him or himself or herself.
Due process. We've heard of, let's say, the Philex transaction and the Meralco transaction.
Okay.
That was discussed before. Can you update us about that?
Yes, these were two transactions took place in 2009, I believe.
Yes.
I think GSIS,
very high profile again.
GSIS, in fact, sold its entire stake in Meralco to San Miguel. At 90 pesos. Now, of course, people will say, wow, 90 pesos wasn't that cheap. But if you look at when the transaction was done at that time, it was trading about 45 and 50 pesos. The fact that it's now trading at 200.
Understand these trading terms.
Yeah.
And
so it was sold to San Miguel,
right.
Which is one of the largest corporations. So there was, I didn't see anything anomalous about the transaction.
But that's a nagging question always. When we talk about GSIS,
yes.
A lot of people remember when Mr. Garcia stood up there and, tried to explain or to... Because there was another big group involved, the Lopez group.
Yes.
So that whole hullabaloo stayed in people's minds.
Yes.
And we've seen other government offices, PAGCOR, been going after its predecessors. GSIS, we haven't seen much.